Dear friends and neighbors, we at Spring Glen Church share your hurt, your pain, your anger, and we join with the greater New Haven chapter of the NAACP in calling on the haunted house homeowners 2 doors down from our congregation to remove their display, a display that this year incorporates imagery evocative of the real-life identity-based systemic violence, both historic and ongoing, against multiple marginalized demographic communities, including Black and Brown people, LGBTQIA+ people, Jewish people, people impacted by mental health, and people who have immigrated to this country. From the day this haunted house display went up 2 weeks ago, we have taken daily actions to engage the homeowners, minister to those impacted, and connect with community partners to try to get the homeowners to change course. Adding to the pain of this display has been the homeowners' refusal to acknowledge the hurt of their neighbors whom they claim they care about. Watching the response of our wider community online, now we are encouraged by the number of folks who have spoken up and clearly understand the problem at hand. But we are equally discouraged by how easily others have been able to justify and minimize, dismiss and normalize the racism, antisemitism, and ableism evoked by this display. So from now through Halloween, we at Spring Glen Church will be posting daily videos to help educate the community about the many problematic layers, to address each individual defensive and dismissive claim, and to continue to ask our neighbors to rectify this communal harm. Today's video will give a brief overview of what's problematic about the display and address the first and most common dismissive myth, which is the question of intentionality. We will not be showing the display here so that we are not amplifying that trauma, but we will be discussing it in detail to try to bring about understanding, healing, and restitution. The first problematic imagery we want to lift up is a gallows that has been constructed in the middle of their lawn with bodies hanging from nooses and from the trees. This clearly evokes a history and an ongoing trauma of lynching in America. These nooses, especially strung up between trees, are so painful for folks to pass by and witness publicly each day, and makes them question their own sense of safety in a neighborhood, especially in a neighborhood that was intentionally segregated and redlined in its formation. And this lynching imagery is particularly painful for our Black neighbors and members. It is also painful for LGBTQIA+ folks and Indigenous people who also struggle with the fight to stop lynchings and mob violence against their communities. Second, the imagery we want to lift up is the barbed wire fencing in watchtowers with guards, and the lynched body with vertical striped clothing, which is evocative of the history of concentration camps. This imagery and this portion of the display is anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, and it is also xenophobic because it not only calls to mind the harm inflicted, the genocide inflicted during the Holocaust abroad, but also the internment of Japanese Americans and many East Asian immigrants right here on our own soil at the same time during World War II. It is also evocative of current traumatic disappearances, kidnappings, detainment, and trafficking of people who are xenophobically, racistly assumed to be here illegally, assumed to be criminals by a racist branch of our federal government called ICE. Thirdly, we want to address the overarching theme of this display, which is written out in a massive sign at the front gate, which says that this whole display is a mental asylum, with the idea that it is scary because the mental asylum has been taken over by the inmates. Now, on one level, The nooses are a harsh reminder for folks who are dealing with self-harm ideation currently or historically, or who have lost somebody or are trying to support and care for somebody in their lives who have ongoing struggles with mental health in that vein. It also evokes a history of criminalization of mental health in our country. And again, not just a history, but the ongoing trauma of that in our society. The number of people who are put in jails when what they really need is mental health support. And then we come back to our lynching imagery as well, and thinking about the story a month ago where a young Black man was lynched at his college in Mississippi, and the local law enforcement tried to cover it up by claiming it was suicide. And so, if you are wondering why your neighbors are struggling with this display, those are many reasons right there. Now, many people who have, learned about these concerns of their neighbors have said, but it wasn't their intention. They're clearly evoking or invoking a long-standing horror genre trope. And so our learning point today as a community is about intentionality. Often when bigotry and the harm related to bigotry is named, people will respond with a dismissive claim, but that wasn't their intention, or that wasn't my intention. And we need to learn as a society that bigotry is bigotry regardless of intention. Can I get an amen? I'm going to say that again. Bigotry is bigotry regardless of intention. And often the worst inflictions of bigotry are through well-meaning people who did not intend to cause harm. Even good intentions can cause harm, right? And if you, for example, are not paying attention and you walk into your neighbor and you bump them and knock them over by accident, your impulse should be to still apologize, acknowledge the harm you created, even accidental, and then to help your neighbor up. That is our hope for whenever there is racism or bigotry in our midst, that folks, even if it was unintentional, will instead of reacting with defensiveness and dismissiveness, oh, I didn't mean it. The problem is you, not me. That is a perpetuation and amplifying of the harm that was already caused. We exist in a society, in a culture and a history with ongoing structural and cultural identity-based violence. Racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, xenophobia, all the isms. And so it makes sense that we will often step in it. We will accidentally, when we're not paying attention, bump into our neighbor and knock them down. My hope is that we can help lift them up. So a few months ago, we designed these lawn signs that say, everyone is welcome in our neighborhood, so there is no room for bigotry. And I want to say we stand by that statement and thus seek to proactively uproot bigotry from this community, whether intentional or unintentional, both as it relates to this haunted house, but also as a teachable moment for all of us to self-reflect on the ways that we might be that person who accidentally stepped in it when we don't realize. And so we hope that your impulse will be towards repair, towards care, towards restoration. And if you want to be part of that community response to bring care and restoration and healing, keep watching these videos and reach out to be part of the solution. Thank you for your time. We'll see you tomorrow.